If you have been following my podcast for any time at all, you will know per my last episode that I was very recently bullied into unemployment. And that's got me thinking about a lot of things, obviously. Aside from how scared I am right now of being unemployed and not having an income, I am really thinking a lot about right to work states and workers' rights and an incident that happened with the crows at my former workplace and the mark of the beast. And if you've followed me for any time at all, you know that I'm always going to take everything and spin it into something more esoteric and deep, and an opportunity for us to examine our shadow. Hi, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Naomi, and this is Mosaic in Progress. And I want to give a huge shout out to my husband for his amazing editing skills, because for the last 4, 5, 6 episodes, I've lost count now, I have been recording on Studio One instead of using a paid app that I was previously using that did auto editing. And I have been just recording the raw audio through this, and he's doing all of the editing. In addition to the fact that he wrote my intro and outro music and edits that into there. So just huge. I just got attacked by the microphone. That may be edited out, it may not. It just fell right into my face. Huge shout out to my husband for the work that he is doing to help me with my podcast. So let's get into it. I was bullied into unemployment, and I mean that quite literally. I was told that I had to resign, which is not anything anyone can ever tell you that is actionable, for the record. If you are a person who has employment and anyone ever tells you that you have to tender your resignation, no the fuck you don't. Tell them to get fucked. Fire me. Because what they're doing is they're preserving themselves from a wrongful termination lawsuit because they know they could be sued for that. And they are also preventing themselves from any liability if you file for unemployment. If anyone ever tells you you have to tender a resignation, tell them to get fucked. And I wish that I had that just stored in the back of my head when it happened, but I didn't. I allowed myself to be bullied into resigning and fucking myself over. Because the thing with bullies is that they want to make you feel like you don't have a choice, and they did a very effective job of that with me. And I'm not going to stand on ego and pretend like, oh, I was so strong and I didn't. No, I didn't. I failed myself. And that's something that I'm grappling with, is that I did fail myself. But they bullied me into fucking myself over so that they could stand without any liability. Which got me thinking about right to work states, because I work in a right to work state, unfortunately. And everybody think right to work means you've got the right to work. No, it fucking doesn't. That is a capitalist lie. That is propaganda. Right to work means you can be fired for any reason whatsoever without any recourse. It means even if they fire you for cause and the cause is bullshit, you may not be able to sue them effectively. Right to work means you don't have a right to a job. Right to work means that you basically have no rights. You are employed at the whim of the employer with no rights of your own and no recourse if they fuck you over, and no support if they fuck you over. Because if they do something like forcing you to resign, you don't get unemployment. Lawyers won't take your case. You're just fuck out of an income and hope you can pay your bills and your mortgage and don't end up homeless. Actually, we don't really hope it because we don't really care. We don't give a fuck. That's what right to work means. And we've been lied to about it for so long that no one actually knows what it means. People think that it's some great thing to live in a right to work state. To live in a right to work state means that you have the least recourse if your employers cause harm to you in one way or another than in states that are not right to work. Right to work state means that you have no rights. And they frame it as right to work because people hear that and they think, oh, that sounds like a positive thing. When the reality is that a right to work state is a right to fire at will state. And think of that, please, like a firing squad, because yes, it's fire at will. We don't like you, we don't want you, we don't need you. Your hair's kind of weird. The boss doesn't like that you call him out for his terrible leadership skills. Okay, you're gone. No recourse. No right to appeal. Nothing there to protect you. Right to work means you are a sitting duck. And as I thought about this, so at my job that I was recently forced to leave, I fed crows that were there at the office. At one point, there were a total of 8. It started off as 3, it got up to 8, and shortly before I left, there was 5. And about a month before I was forced to leave, I heard my crows going crazy, and I hadn't fed them yet that day, and I was like, okay, let me go out here and give them some food. And as I walked out, I saw a hawk flying from the tree where they roosted in, and heard them calling, and I was like, hell yeah, babies, run off the hawk. And no more had that escaped my lips than another hawk flew out. Now, these hawks were pretty large. They were at least twice as big as my crows, at least. And hawks, as you know, are birds of prey. They have beaks designed to attack. And after the second hawk flew out, my 5 crows flew out of the tree in formation, chasing the hawks away, calling after them to chase them off. A few weeks later, I think it might have been the day before they told me I had to leave. A couple days before, I heard them calling again. They had a very distinctive call whenever there was a hawk around. And I stepped outside and I saw them chasing off this hawk. And it was just one this time. And my 5 crows in formation, but there was a difference this time. They remained in formation and they took turns, each one flying up towards the hawk, trying to peck at it, trying to attack it in some way to bring it down. And then they'd fall back in formation and another one would try. And the first time that I saw them chasing the hawks away like that, I was like, wow, that's really a metaphor, isn't it? For organization and collaboration, because these hawks were much bigger than the crows. But together, they were able to drive them out. The oppressors. They were able to drive them out, not because they were bigger and stronger, but because together, with organization and collaboration, they were stronger. And the second time that I saw it, I was like, ooh, it says a lot right there that the impact of one successful venture emboldened them to try again and to try a little harder, to be a little more aggressive this time. I think a lot about this in terms of politics today, because we don't really have a leader right now. We have a lot of people who have very strong feelings and a lot of passion, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but we don't seem to have anyone willing to step up and be a leader. Which is fair, because most people who are good leaders don't want to be leaders. They want somebody else to be the leader. They want somebody else to take the reins. And we're very bad at encouraging people to be leaders, because that's what needs to happen. I'm sure everyone listening to this who is displeased with the state of the United States of America knows someone who is very capable of leading, someone who is able to speak in public, someone who is able to manage the rhetoric, someone who is able to embolden people and motivate people to action. And that person is probably overworked and burnt out. because that's capitalist society in America. And we don't want to do what is necessary to support someone to be a leader. And I've seen this for a long time, and it honestly, it reminds me of the church, because my dad was a Church of Christ preacher. And for most of my life, no, for all of my life, until he quit preaching, he worked more than one job because the church didn't pay him enough to survive. They did not pay him a living wage. They expected him to work his preaching job like a full-time job. They wanted him to be 7 days a week, going visiting people in hospitals and visiting the widows and et cetera, and also, doing the sermons on twice a day on Sunday and then on Wednesday evenings. But they were unwilling to pay him for his time. He was unfairly compensated, and so to be able to survive and to feed his family, he had to work 2 and 3 jobs. And they would be very angry that he was unable to constantly be going to hospitals and things like that because he was having to work to support his family. But they had no one in accordance with the Word of God, elders and deacons and etc., who were willing to go and visit the widows and the orphans and the sick and etc. And this movement reminds me a lot of that, in that we want someone to step up for us, but we're unwilling to support them either in word or in money to show up and do that. Because the fact of the matter is, if we want someone to lead us into freedom, we're going to have to financially support someone to do that. Because if we find a billionaire willing to do it, then they're not really on our side. Let's be real. Honestly. There is no billionaire who's on our side, because there are no ethical billionaires. And if we want someone who's going to support us, we have to be willing to financially support them so that they can lead. There's a lot of uncertainty right now and a lot of fear. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm immune from that or separate from it, because especially now, not having a job, I'm absolutely terrified. And I have no social programs to fall back on because they've all been done away with. It's such a dystopian timeline. I was talking with a friend recently who lives in rural Alabama, and we were talking about boycotting and stuff. This was just before I lost my job. I was talking about how I wanted to get mattresses for the bed frames that I have, so that if people needed a place to crash, they had a place to crash, because I have plenty of space in my house. I just need to fix the areas up so that people have a place to sleep. I wanted to be able to be that for people, to be able to be the landing place for the people who don't have anywhere else to go. My mama was always that, and I've always aspired to be that. And she said, oh, you can get some really good ones from Walmart. And it was like, no, I'm not supporting Walmart. I'm boycotting Walmart. You fuck that corporation. And she was like, oh, yeah, they are pretty terrible. And she said, well, you can get it on Amazon. There's some really good ones on Amazon. I said, fuck Jeff Bezos. I'm not buying anything from Jeff Bezos. And she said, I get it. I don't really have other options myself. And it's a thing that we really don't think about if we live in cities. I used to think about it a lot because I used to live in a very rural area, but not as rural as my friend is. I was a little bit closer into the city. Boycotting is a privilege. It is an absolute privilege. Some people do not have the ability to boycott. Boycotting would mean I don't have necessities. Boycotting would mean there's gonna be a hole in my roof that I can't patch because I can't get supplies, because to get supplies is gonna be to fund whoever, Home Depot, Walmart, whoever we are trying to boycott. And so my house is going to be destroyed because there's nowhere else that I can buy. And we don't think about that a lot. We go, buy local, buy local, buy local. Not everyone has a local alternative. Not everyone has that. And we get up on our high horse and we judge people for spending money with these huge corporations that have hedged out small businesses and the mom and pop stores out of existence in a lot of places, to the point that there are a lot of people who have no choice but to support these businesses that are actively working against them. And as I thought about that, I've been hearing so many things about different streaming platforms and social media, etc. And to be fair, streaming is not a necessity. It is not necessary for you to stream music or television or movies to live. You can live without it. I will grant that. However, not every single artist is on Bandcamp or other alternative options. They're on the one that's easy, which, to be frank, is Spotify. I'm on Spotify, and I'm really struggling with that a lot because Spotify is issuing ICE ads, and that is real fucked up. I don't want to be a part of a platform or support a platform that is supporting the new American Gestapo. But I also don't want to stop supporting indie artists. Not that Spotify's doing a great job of paying them. I think Shirley Manson of Garbage is doing a really good job highlighting that. But not everybody has another platform. Not everybody is somewhere else. For a lot of people, this is their platform. They've got TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Spotify. And that's it. And you say, oh, well, they should just go down then. Okay, well, the person singing about taking the Nazis down should go down because they don't have the money or bandwidth or whatever to be able to be on other platforms. And I think this is something that we're not talking about enough and we're not organizing on. Because this needs to be a conversation. This needs to be an organizational conversation of where we going next. Okay, fuck Mark Zuckerberg and Meta. We're all getting off Instagram and Facebook. Where are we going? Where are we going? Because I'm not hearing this conversation. Where are we going next? So that we can continue the communication. So that we can coordinate with each other. Because you get rid of these platforms, then the communication stops. So where are we going next? And we're not talking about that, and we need to be talking about that. I hear tiny whispers sometimes. There's one account on Instagram that talks about going over to Blue Sky, and that's it. None of the creators that I follow talk about going anywhere else or where else they're going. And it's important. We need to establish these other avenues. And we're not doing that enough. We're not identifying leaders. We're not identifying other avenues. We are shouting into the wind right now. Don't give money to this. Okay, well then what? Because most of the indie artists that I follow on Spotify, and they don't have Bandcamps. They don't have other places to follow them. Okay, Apple Music. Oh, that one's also bad. We can't stop giving money to corporations and still support indie artists if the indie artists don't have other platforms. And this is not being talked about enough. It needs to be talked about. Because the indie artists, quite frankly, are leading the charge. They're doing what we're all too scared to do. They are creating beauty and love and movement. And they're using the fucking tools of the enemy to do it. And I think that's beautiful. So this episode is going to be a lot shorter than my previous episodes. But I want to issue a challenge to everyone listening. I want you to find the leader in your community. or the leaders in your community, the people who can lead the charge, the people who have the knowledge, the people who have the words, the people who have the charisma to be able to lead the community in the direction that it should go. And I want you to figure out how you can support them. And I'm going to be very egotistical right now and not present myself as a leader, but I am going to say that I have been called on by many people to be a leader. And I'm going to tell you what it would take for me to be able to lead. I would need financial help to be able to pay my bills. I would need money, first of all and foremost. I would need help with my house because I can't keep it up. I can't keep up with the housework and do what I need to do. I could not keep up with the housework and do the job that I did where I was a leader and I was actually getting paid for it. I would need people to come over just to hang out and support me with no judgment, no expectations, to just show up for me. And this is not me saying I'm the leader for my community, I'm the one that should step up. But I have been told so many times, oh, you're the leader, you're the one, we need you to lead our community. I've been told that for over a decade. And no one has ever been willing to step up and give to me what I need to be able to do that. That's what it would take for me to be able to do that. And I don't think I'm unique in that. I think that is what anyone would need. Financial support, practical support, and emotional support. So find your leaders in your community and give them whatever you can of that they need. And then reach out to your local artist, your indie artist who you support, and see what they need to get away from these platforms that are fucking them over. And work toward getting away from giving your resources to people who don't give a shit about you. I wish I could go back in time a little over a week ago to myself and tell myself, you're getting fucked over, don't comply. You're getting fucked over, don't comply. And I can't do that. But I can pass that message on to all of you who listen. You're getting fucked over, don't comply. As much as it is within your power to do so, don't comply. And I'm not talking about those who are unable to resist. Those for whom boycotting is a pipe dream that they are unable to bring into reality. Those of you who can, do it and speak out for those who can't. Talk about that fact. Those of you who are not buying from Walmart or Target or Amazon or who the fuck ever, Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, all of them, do that, but also speak out about the fact that there are people in what is almost a food desert who have no other option but to support these corporations because there's no one else there. They'd have to drive over an hour to buy from somewhere else, and they don't have the money to buy the gas to do that. Talk about that for the people who can't talk about it. Speak for those who have no voice. And most importantly, we're at a crossroads in this nation. We keep talking about, I hear so many people, we're on the edge of fascism, we're descending into fascism. We're already fucking there. We're in fascism. We've been in fascism for a long time. We've been in fascism for a long fucking time, before Donald Trump, honestly, but nobody wanted to talk about it. We're just in full-blown authoritarian fascism right now, very akin to Nazi Germany. We've already got our own Gestapo. It's happening. It's not trending towards that. It's happening. It's now. We're there. If you think there's going to be a midterm election, you're delusional. The government's shut down. And it's been shut down for an unprecedented amount of time. And if you think it's going to reopen, it's not really shut down because, we're still getting taxes taken out and they're still doing things. They're just saying it's shut down so that they can avoid doing what they're supposed to do. I keep thinking about the book of Revelation because I was not raised premillennialist with the rapture ideology. That came like sometime in the 1800s. I was not raised with that mentality. I was taught that that was a false doctrine, a false religion, had nothing to do with the Bible or the early church. Nobody believed in that until the 1800s. That's how I was raised. So I never believed in the rapture and all of that bullshit. My teaching about the mark of the beast and the book of Revelation was that the book of Revelation is an allegory. It's a metaphor for the timeline of human experience, and it's a cycle. And then the cycle is basically that Christians exert their influence and there's a period of prosperity and peace and happiness and harmony. And then they get compliant and evil takes over. And war and destruction and poverty and famine prevail. And then the good people rise up and suppress the evil. And the cycle repeats. That is how I was taught the book of Revelation. In a very Cliff's Notes summary way of explaining it. Mark of the Beast, though, that one was always a little difficult to explain. And as I am living through this timeline, it finally makes sense within the context of viewing Revelation as I was taught it. The mark of the beast means there is no escaping, contributing to the Leviathan. Because what does it say? Then those who receive the mark of the beast and the number of his name cannot buy or sell or trade unless they receive the mark of the beast. You can't exist in society without receiving the mark of the beast. And isn't that where we're at? Because we think of the mark of the beast as some esoteric thing, but it's not. The mark of the beast, 666. 600, 6. What does that mean? It is the number of man. That's what it says. And from an esoteric perspective, this is really obvious. If you look at numerology, 7 is the divine number, 6 is the human number. 666 is just saying he's a man. People think of it as like, oh, some demonic thing, and this is the devil, and 666 is the devil's number. No, it's just saying it's a man. The mark of the beast is just saying it's a man. And that's where we're at. It's a man. You have to fucking accept some man's viewpoint of reality, oppression, subjugation, etc., just to be able to live in society. The mark of the beast, accepting the mark of the beast, is an allegory for the fact that you cannot escape the subjugation and the oppression of this man. And we have several men who are doing that. We all know who they are. Fucking billionaires who don't care if they destroy our environment to make another buck, if they destroy people to make another buck, if they destroy our democracy to make another buck. They don't care what they destroy. They just want more. And this is gluttony. We always think of gluttony as like eating too much. I'm not really sure where that came about because the original English word is about hoarding. Gluttony doesn't mean you ate too much. Gluttony means you kept more for yourself than you needed without consideration to those around you. Hello, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates and all of the other billionaires I'm not even going to name the political powers because I don't think there's a lot of evidence for them that can justify them as being anything good. I hear a lot of people talking about they're just businessmen. They're just businessmen. No, they are fucking predators who are exploiting people and the environment and politicians for their own gain. They are gluttonous. They are greedy. They are insisting on others receiving the mark of the beast. And it's a very scary time to be alive. It's a very scary time to have morals, because you do have to receive the mark of the beast. It's pretty much inescapable. Even if you're privileged, it's pretty much inescapable. There is something that you are doing or buying that is supporting the people who you are in opposition to, and the people who are doing things that are in opposition to your greater good and the greater good of society. No matter how conscientious you are, you cannot exist in society without supporting the beast in some way. You can't. And that is not to be pessimistic or to bring you down. It is simply the reality of the situation, and I hope it motivates you rather than depresses you to do what I spoke about earlier. Find your leader. Find the leader in your society and support them. Because you have someone, you know. When I said it, you thought of someone immediately. You knew someone. So work on supporting them, that they can lead. And they can take us into a new age. Because if everyone does that, if you gave $5 a month, and everyone gave $5 a month, change the world. And we look a lot at corporations and organizations that are doing good and giving them a little bit of money. But what if you gave that money to one person who could do the work? So that they weren't having to feed into the capitalist machine and sacrifice their life and their body to a capitalist machine, that all their life would be devoted to was doing the work and fighting for others. Where would we get? Just something to think about. I love you all so much. I really appreciate every one of you who tunes in and listens. I would really be interested in hearing the thoughts of my listeners as far as platforms that you're listening on and how we can stay connected, because for a long time it's been, Spotify and things like that, and it seems to be going away and taboo, but most of my listeners are still on Spotify. So I would be really interested to hear where you would be willing to go instead to listen to me, because I have the ability to put my podcast on any platform. And I don't want to take it away from where my listeners are until you're ready to go somewhere else. So this is very listener driven. You have to let me know. On Facebook, I'm Mosaic in Progress. On Instagram, it's at Mosaic in Progress, all one word. I am available by email, mosaicinprogress@gmail.com. Let me know. You have the ability to comment on Spotify too. Just let me know where you would rather listen to me, to not feed this Leviathan that is supporting ICE, supporting this American Gestapo. And let me know where you would rather see me post updates, because I've thought for a long time about starting a Patreon, but I've gone back and forth on that as far as whether or not people would subscribe. And I had set my goal that when I hit 50 subscribers that I would start a Patreon, but maybe I can go ahead and start it and offer it in tiers. Let me know. Very interested to hear what you would like to see. And I love you all so much. And this is such a difficult time for everyone. I wish you all the best. I wish you healing and happiness and peace in a time where everything isn't so heavy and everything isn't so difficult. And I wish you all strength during this time where you need it and you need to be able to stand up and fight. I wish you all the strength and the confidence in yourself to know that you are doing the right thing and saying the right thing. Find your leaders and support them. I love you all so much, and I will see you next time as we both continue to work on our mosaic in progress.